judge to come in and do the oath of office.
Oh, okay.
Everybody here? A couple minutes after 6, I'll call the meeting to order.
Don't have the sound down yet.
Yeah, wait.
Oh, sorry. Okay, whatever. A couple minutes after 6, I'll call the meeting to order. First, do I have to approve the agenda first? Is that later on? Okay, first item on here is oath of office. We have a new park board member.
And then you just pick that up and read it.
All right. I, Rachel Rott, have been appointed to the office of Parks and Rec Board within and for the city of Mitchell, Dixon County, South Dakota. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of South Dakota, and the ordinance of said city of Mitchell, and that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability, perform all the duties of the office of Parks and Rec Board.
Thank you, welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome.
I don't know if they told you. Because all these things are broadcast. The public's watching. So.
Next is citizens input. Looks like we have none. Delegations, looks like we also have none. Additions or deletions to the agenda? None. Right, now I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Minutes.
I'm presuming that everybody has read them, and I'm not scrolling so fast that you're not reading them again now. And the motion will not be seeking is from our new board member because she wasn't here.
Anybody have any questions or anything? Not, I need a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Approval of financial reports.
Would you like me to go through them one by one?
What was, kind of what we've been doing is anything standing out to you or any of the department guys?
Off the top of your head, Steve, was there anything under campground?
No, I don't think so.
Compared to budget-wise, are we kind of where we should be with most of them?
That we are.
So campground revenue is starting to ramp up.
Is that hot time of the year for the campground?
Yeah.
Except for the boat down on the lake. You can't use it. So they all use something like that here. So you can't use a boat down there. There you go.
We're ready for boat rental. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I apologize for two guys needing to be gone. Jeremy's vacation coupled with a family event that he needed to be gone during this 2-week span, and it's quite a drive for him to get to Idaho and back. Kevin, there was a, not sure why this day needed to be gone, but he's gone as well today. Steve is here, though. The bills are a long document, so I'm not going to scroll through that one all the way, but there was nothing really glaring in there. I can tell you there'll be some additional expense in mosquito spray. If we need to buy another barrel of that, it runs about, is that $4,000, Steve?
Yeah, give or take.
How many times have you guys sprayed so far?
This 4 times this year.
When he brought me the numbers, that they showed really low until even before Memorial Day. We sprayed prior to Memorial Day, but right about then they started increasing, but it really hit right after the flooding. It's remained high, but it is dropping. I'm scrolling just so you can jump on something if you think it's here, but nothing was glaring to us.
The rec center project complete? Is that all done? Paid out and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had some HVAC issues over there, but those repairs got done earlier this week, and that was for that youth area.
Has that been utilized as far as rental yet?
As far as the pool, you mean?
No, the rec room, as far as like birthday parties and renting that out yet, has that been?
That'd be more of a Kevin question, but
Okay.
birthday parties are more popular during the winter months, but it does get used for that, yes. It's nice to have that hard surface floor in there versus carpet. You think about smashing birthday cake in a carpet, it doesn't come out too well. Board reports, too, we've assumed you've read. If you have any questions regarding what's on those reports, we'll certainly go through them.
Still have to do a motion for the minutes.
I'm sorry.
Yep, need a motion to.
I'll motion to approve the financial reports.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Department reports.
Something I'll note for Jeremy is they're finishing up work over at Cadwell. It seems like I've said that for the last couple of months, but this week they were over there and putting the countertop and the carpet and the pieces of metal for the inserts up in the purlins to keep the sparrows out is, if it's not been done as of the last couple of days, it's coming prior to the tournament time. I know he was waiting to get a post installed on, help me with the field letter, Danny.
Yeah, that's kind of easy, got the pole was down.
Yeah, that's the one that's snapped in the strong wind, and it sits in wet ground to start with. And it's,
Delfield fence in the other field.
and it's been an issue to get it in because it's been so wet. If they tap a hole, it'll be water in the hole.
Luckily enough that the leagues don't use that field. You would generally use like 2 games and then we'll switch over and add a game to another time to get it done. There's also a sidewalk issue on the other side, the west side, that's been there for a while. Gotta be fixed.
Yep, in the west complex, excuse me.
Yeah.
And that's right where that safety light is. And Jeremy is on top of those things already.
Is it Parks' responsibility for bike trail stuff? Typically?
Explain what
Well,
you mean.
there's, on that gravel trail that out to the bridge, I tried to ride it the other day, and after that, after a little flood, like the downhills are right by the bridge on, it's just dangerous. I mean, it's a foot deep and it's all sand. So somebody's gonna crash pretty good if they come over that hill and try and go down to the bottom, so, or onto the bridge. So I didn't know if that was in Parks jurisdiction or if that was somewhere else.
I believe it's us. Steve?
Yeah, I would assume so. We never really had to blade it or add gravel to it, but we mow either side of the bike trail and
Yeah, just
So-
kind of dangerous right now, so.
Okay.
Good idea.
Thank you for stating so. If you want to highlight what was done prior to the 4th in terms of lake prep and things like that.
Yeah, we're, been busy with prepping the lake for the 4th of July. The flooding didn't help, we had debris up on the beaches, stuff like that. Had flooding in probably 3, 4 parks that we had to pump water out of. Just a lot of cleanup around the lake for the 4th. And we're working on Pat Young when we can. We're getting close with having the structure put together. They just basically have the roofs to put on it and the swing set, and then we got to concrete all the poles in the ground, and then get the contractor in there to do the concrete work for underneath the surfacing. And then the surfacing company's got to come in, install that. So we're still got quite a bit of work to do there.
The rain delays haven't helped with that part.
Yep.
And as I stated to somebody else, we've learned through this one, we're going to contract it done if we can afford it. Timing is typically fall, and we got delayed due to our supplier. She held on to the order because one component wasn't done. That delayed the whole thing by 30 days, which put it here too late in the fall to start work on it. So we started in the spring, and we had a wet spring. I noted in my notes here, and I think Steve may have as well, regarding full-time position openings that we had. We had 2 that were open. One, our crew leader went to the airport manager position. After a week, he decided he was better suited for Parks Department, so we got him back starting this last Monday. And our other new hire to replace Alex, who was gone as of a couple months ago to go to a private employment job, actually business ownership. He'll start a week from this coming Monday, and we'll be back to full staffed again. I noted in here that we got our grant from the State Department of Health regarding that $12,000 for mosquitoes. We've already overspent that, but we're going to continue spraying until they get under control. And as I noted to somebody else yesterday, I believe this heat and dry spell is going to help with that. It won't overall cure it, but it will help. And our mayor had some good quotes in the newspaper this morning as well regarding that. It's going to be a while, but we're after it.
Is there anything more like Parks Department stuff that gets done as opposed to just citywide stuff? Is there more like in park spraying done?
Not typically, unless we got a special event or, baseball tournament or something. We've done that in the past,
They do circle the ball field, so they go out in between the fields and the complex, down the middle, and help it to spread that way rather than thinking that from the streets is going to capture it.
So like rodeo next week, is there anything that's
We
additional?
have done it in the past at the rodeo grounds and stuff like that. I'm sure that will be coming.
Can
And I
ask a
think-
question also? Will you guys be doing at Hitchcock Park for like the tennis, over by the tennis fields? Because I know that's pretty bad too, when you're just walking to the tennis courts.
Yeah, when we fog the city, we go in the parks, in the bigger parks like that. I even tell the guys, we drive in the park, by then it's probably midnight, 1 o'clock. We actually drive through the park where we can, around the buildings, stuff like that, to kind of fog it a little extra, but they're just terrible everywhere.
Yes.
Anything regarding anybody's reports? Any one thing that sticks out that you want to talk about?
I do have another question about spraying. Are you guys also doing this, are you guys also doing the spraying in the alleys? Is, somebody had mentioned that you were doing alley spraying, but is that your focus along with the street, or?
Nope, we just run the streets. We do east and west because there's more that go straight through town. We tried north and south years ago, but you're doing too much jogging around to try to get back onto a north-south street. And the guys are supposed to, if there's like a long block, it's 2 blocks, 3 blocks long with no east-west street going through it, they're supposed to kind of do the north and south there. But as for alleys, we haven't done alleys. We did it years ago, but they're limited of alleys. Some people have them, a lot of people don't. And they run east, west, north, south, it's kind of hard to do alleys also. And the spray is supposed to, when it comes out of the machine, it looks like it's in one little cloud on the street, but it's supposed to dissipate enough to travel halfways down one block and halfways down the other. Then when you come down the next street, it's supposed to kind of overlap a little bit. But with obviously building houses in the way, you don't get everything.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Campground rules.
So this document is a reflection of what is actually on the form when people register online. However, we didn't want to be distributing something that wasn't approved by the park board, so this is here for you to review. Hopefully, people have read over it. There's not been handouts other than if it's the form that people saw online. And we've had a little bit of, should we say, bickering going on out there as far as people at sites wondering why they have to follow rules, well, they were never told about rules, and we've explained to them, you saw them online when you agreed to, and you did your rental. But evidently, some people in the past haven't been as assertive in enforcing some of these rules. So now we're going to have a handout out there to be able to place on the campsites, hand to the people as they register, as they come in, and there won't be any excuses for, I didn't know. That is with your approval. Steve has very detailed information in case anybody wants an answer to a question.
I do have a question on that. So if you're going to do the handouts, have you thought about doing a QR code so that they can take their phone and scan it so that you don't have to deal with the paper idea that will save some money? And it's also, you can do it on the website.
They can't burn that.
So we have campground hosts that are out at the campground, and they stay there in the summer season. And we know that most people that come in, they're gonna take a sheet of paper, and that's what they're gonna use to start their fire with. Because we don't have a dedicated office, so when you pull in, if you have a reservation, the campground host has a ticket on your post, you just go to your site. If you pull in off the road, you don't have a reservation, we have a stop sign there, you stop, we put a list of what's reserved, there's self-payment stations. We have a big bulletin board right there that has the rules, has everything in it. Inevitably, people still seek out the campground host that's on duty to help them find a site and stuff like that. So people just, number one, they don't read. Number two, a lot of our campers are older who don't understand the phones, the QR codes and stuff like that. And people will tell you in one breath that they've made the online reservation, oh yes, I saw that, and then in the second breath, they'll tell you, well, we've been doing this for 20 years. Nobody's ever told us we can't. So it's, this way it kind of has the campground host, since they're responsible for who's in the campground. When they're on duty, this way when somebody comes in, it puts a name to a face. They always go over to the campsite, introduce themselves, I'm the campground host on duty. If there's anything that you need, this is what campsite I'm in. And by the way, here are the rules. And this way, when there is something that needs to be addressed, the campground host can take the rule sheet, go over, and in a diplomatic way say, you know, these are the rules. This is the one that we're having an issue with. And just kind of reinforce that and hope that we don't have an incident that we had a few weeks ago, so.
And the hosts that are on duty daily during the weekdays come up and bring their deposits of anybody who paid in cash up to Angel. So she hears about the things firsthand, comments going both ways, and the feedback coming from the customers, she may get, I may get, but ultimately we try to get them resolved.
So I have a question. What would you say the most common complaint then is out there? Because these seem very reasonable. I read through them earlier today, and they seem reasonable on all levels.
The two biggest issues that we have are, A, we're pet friendly, but we ask people to have their dogs on their leash. Please clean up after your pet. People think they don't need to have their dogs on the leash because they're in an outdoor situation. They don't think they need to clean up after their pets. So that is an issue. The biggest issue that we have is everybody that's been out to campground knows that it's small. And so the roads are narrow. And so we ask that, per the rule, you can have one vehicle, your RV, one tent. If you have a pull-through site that you might be able to have your RV, your trailer, your vehicle to fit on there. It's so that we don't have people pulled everywhere. We're not taking, oh, my site will not, I've got two vehicles. I'll just park it on this empty site. And when somebody comes through the campground, pulls off the road at night, and they go through, they see a vehicle there, they're like, oh, this thing is occupied. Then they head down the road to the next campground. So it's just being a good neighbor practice, it's being respectful, it's not blocking. We have big motorhomes that come in that are trying to go in and out. It's just, and in the campground, you can stand pretty much at any site, and if you've got a decent arm, you can lob a rock through your extra vehicle in the overflow lot, so.
With the construction out there, I haven't been out there since they started the construction project. That hasn't affected the overflow lot at all?
No.
No. Okay.
Next year, that'll impact our driveway, but nothing actually in the campground.
Okay. So the overflow lot still will always be
Yeah.
adequate.
Always be available. Yeah, our biggest problem is like when you've got a holiday weekend or something, or even you get somebody that has a site off by themselves. If you've got 6 people visiting you and you got 6 different vehicles, you've got vehicles on the grass, you're blocking the road, you've got, it becomes a danger, it does property damage, and, so we're just trying to minimize.
So per request of the state, we needed to move our campground sign already last fall, as well as all that landscaping that was there, even though they won't be working on that stretch until next year.
Right.
But, so we'll get a new campground sign per what the state provides. So even though that one's not completely bad, it'll be an updated sign.
Anybody got any other questions? We'll need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the revised campground rules.
I'll second it. Okay, moving on.
This amendment is to the soccer agreement, and basically, they rent the facility out there in terms of for games or tournaments or what have you. There was a second agreement in place for using a concession stand. A concession stand hasn't been used by the league in several years prior to me. They want to be able to sell some smaller concession items at the tournament they're having this fall. So rather than having them pay the full concession stand lease, we're going to allow them to sell some product out of the gazebo outside that's not heated foods. It's drinks and snacks and things of that nature to be outside. This is just an amendment to that document that they've already signed, that we collect on, that allows that situation. Did you bring a copy for him to sign yet, Slate? Okay. Questions on that?
So it doesn't specifically say which building they can't use, it just says.
You just said the gazebo, right?
Yep.
By the parking lot there. So that's just a one-time tournament, or is that every Saturday?
It's a one-time thing this fall. And it does say specifically the 2024 season, so it'd need to be renewed again in the future.
Okay, need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, I think I forgot to do that. I'll get there.
You're getting it. This is the Figure Skating Association agreement for the next year. I believe there was a slight tweak in the fees as is done annually. Jeremy's not here to explain that, but I can look in his notes. Do you recollect, Angel?
He said he highlighted. Let's get the fee real quick.
There it is. I didn't see a highlight other than the A.
So
Any-
Can you stop
the
it?
fees are the same?
The fees are what would have been tweaked slightly. If it's not tweaked, it's the same.
Is the yellow the change, that A? What does it say?
That been from last year's adjustment?
Yeah, that must be a change from last year.
Yeah, last year.
Jeremy does his best to accommodate both groups, but he worded it as such to where he's got the authority to be able to do that. And we just, as I've told people when we've met with the organizations, I trust his judgment that he'll treat both sides fairly. So he's not one group, not figure skating or hockey. They might perceive the other one's getting a better deal, but they're both treated fairly.
I believe we had that conversation in a prior meeting, didn't we?
Yeah. Kind of came down to, as long as Jeremy's here, everything's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it came down to. If staff changes at some point, one of the associations is unhappy, then we got to do something about it.
I think the only fee change that I can see is maybe going up $1 on number B for the I think last year it was $80 and it's $81. And then a couple sentences down, it's $40.50, and usually we're even numbers, so that stuck out to me. So might have went up $1 on that one and 50 cents on the other.
So what was the 81?
It's an ice time fee, $81 per ring per hour.
Okay,
during
so
peak
the
hours.
hourly rate went up $1.
During the peak hours.
Okay, so then the player fee did not go up at all?
I don't think it did.
I don't believe so. I could dig into last year's documents.
So I just want to make sure, I was assuming that, and maybe not, I don't know. Because I think about every single one of these since I've been here that we went through has had a little bit of an increase, but. But it could be in turn, like, some associations have maybe paid an increase 3 years in a row and other ones.
I think it's pretty much raised every year for quite a while, hasn't it? I mean, it seems like every year we take an increase.
Just a small tweak.
No, $1, you know.
$1 or $2.
We are so cheap on ice here.
So cheap. But at the same time, like a $1 per hour for the hockey association, when they're renting both rinks every night, every weekend.
It adds up.
and it's not hundreds of dollars. It's $1,000. No one sees any issues? I need a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve the figure skating contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'm looking to see if he hit those highlights in here, and they are not noted either.
Did all those numbers
I think that last year, he already had that line raised in there last year on the hockey side, because remember, there was discussion on that. That's when the discussion came from. Must have just gotten added to the figure skating side.
Notice the rates are the same here.
Any questions, anyone? Not, same deal. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the Hockey Association facility use agreement.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Boulevard trees. Violations. Faster they're growing this year, this might actually be a real thing.
So, all large established trees shall be trimmed to a sufficient height to allow free passage of pedestrians and vehicular traffic in such a manner as to allow 8 feet of clearance over all sidewalks and 12 feet of clearance over all streets and alleys. And that would remain the same, but generally it's the penalty. And I'll let Steve kind of highlight what happens there if people do not abide by this sort of thing.
Yeah, typically, it's all by complaint driven. If I get a phone call, whatever, or Kevin or Angel, then I go look at it, see if it needs to be trimmed up or not. If it does, find out who the owner of the property is, give that information to Angel. She sends them a letter. They got 30 days to trim the tree. And right now, if they don't trim the tree in 30 days, we go back, trim it, and it's only at $100. It's not.
Is it $100 per tree or per hour or for the whole job or for multiple?
For the whole property. They could have, it's so outdated.
Sign me up.
You need me to call yourself. You need me to clean for you.
Yeah, so we're looking at, we discussed with Joe over in engineering to kind of treat this the same way as nuisance properties when it comes to mowing, is that if people don't take care of it, we contract a contractor to come in, do it, and then send the bill. Or, in the meantime, we change our wording here in terms of what we charge, be it per hour based upon how many people he's got, the equipment he uses. That can get a little bit challenging in terms of calculating that, but just open for discussion at this point.
Can't you do a minimum plus, like, first hour is, whatever, $250, and then every hour after that's $100 or something? Or I don't know what to say.
Typical tree, if you just had trim one tree or something, it takes you more time to get over there to do it, and it may only take a half hour to trim it.
I look at some of the smaller boulevard trees that were planted and they've become bushes versus being a tree. That would take less than an hour to work on it, and it'd be one person, and then they'd be loading up the branches by hand and put them in a truck. I feel bad charging them $250, but at the same time, they might think it's a bargain because they can't handle it themselves. On the way home at lunch today, I saw a guy with an extension ladder up in a tree with a pruning shears on a maple tree. He was 15 feet up there. So some people do work on it.
Well, the hard part is if the city doesn't do it, good luck finding the guy who's going to, right? I mean, getting contractors right now is not an easy thing to do, so I think the city has to be the one that does it, or at least is the backup, like, is this ball guy or something.
Yeah. And what came about this, Nathan went through the ordinances and looked at them. When I first started, we were just trimming trees on the streets, for clearance for street department's equipment. We would take a section of town every winter and kind of work on it when we had time to do it. But then going through the ordinance and stuff, it says it's up to the property owner to maintain the tree, and there was a fee established to it, and so they decided to go back to that. But at only $100 per property, it doesn't pay for itself.
Right back when we started, we can send a small bill if we want.
I was gonna say when was the last time, like, the trees on I have 4 maple trees on my, When's the last time they did that without the ordinance that they came? Because I remember
That's been,
it's been 8 years,
yeah,
probably that.
been quite a few years since we've done that.
So most of your complaints are probably sidewalk driven.
Yeah, for the most part. And you have to be more on the streets now because the trees are growing, they're getting heavier, hanging down, buses, RVs,
Yeah.
the garbage trucks hitting them, stuff like that. The snowplow truck drivers, we usually get a pretty good list from them guys.
Knocking the lights off the top of the trucks.
And so I've talked to a lot of people, and it sounds like we're going to probably go through most of the town and send out like 500 to 1,000 letters of people and just say, hey, can you trim your trees? Let them know that there's an ordinance. So hopefully we don't have to take care of a lot of that, because I get a ton of trucks and campers and city guys. So we're just going to try to send out a letter and hopefully handle most of those, just as like a courtesy letter, not a warning. And then we can take it from there on what's an actual nuisance. Because me and the nuisance guy drove around the other day, and I was like, I would have filled a notebook in the 1 hour I was with him.
How many of them are that, just driven because the homeowner doesn't know that they're responsible for those trees maybe hanging over the street or on the sidewalk?
I guess they always try to use that excuse that they didn't know that they were supposed to do anything with it.
Or they drive a Honda Accord instead of an RV.
Don't know that it's a problem.
Could they actually call you guys up and ask you to come do it for us? I mean, there's some pretty good sized trees, and I don't mind climbing a tree.
Yeah,
But
it's always,
some of them are huge.
it's always been complaint driven. We've had a few that see the fee of $100 to say, well, then we'll just have you guys do it,
Yeah,
type of thing. They won't even, well, we wait the 30 days just in case they change their mind, want to do it themselves or whatever, but, we've had a few people that would just wait. But for $100, it doesn't pay for my staff to go out there to do it.
Will you touch base on storm damaged ash trees and those heating sidewalks as well?
Yeah, for removals, we charge for removing trees, but if it's an ash or storm damaged tree or something for infrastructure, then we don't charge to take the tree out or trim it. If we got a dangerous hanger or something up there, then we don't charge. We do that stuff yet.
so you guys have a definition of really truly what is a nuisance tree versus the definition of, hey, this is a safety issue.
Yeah.
The city is lacking on, I believe, on private trees, because you can drive around and there's nobody to address it. We deal with lawns, but nobody is, should we say, licensed or certified to be able to point out that tree and say, it's diseased, it's dead, you need to handle that.
Yeah, we don't have a licensed arborist on staff.
And we didn't when I was in Austin either, but we had a certified tree inspector who was able to go around and based upon, again, complaint driven. And I won't point out the two in my mind that are pretty close by here, that they're pretty much dead. And they're on private property, just a couple feet off the sidewalk, but that's the sort of thing we should look at doing at some point as well.
Would that be parks or would that fall under public works or somebody else?
Well, and when I was in Austin, Parks did it because we had the tree inspector.
Yeah.
But when we get to the point where I hope it's a long ways away yet, but emerald ash borer,
Yep.
and if we aren't dealing with what's on private properties and identifying that, that'll be a huge problem.
I'm just thinking, down the road, is it something the city's looking at, maybe adding a forester, an arborist, maybe probably to your department, to the Parks and Rec department, but I know in Brookings, they have something similar to that, to identify that. I don't know if that's down the road, but you are talking about something that's quite possibly could be here in the next 5 to 10 years with the emerald ash borer, so.
Yeah, years ago, we had two staff. One was a forestry foreman and a guy underneath them. Well, they did that work in the winter months, like we do now, and the rest of the time they were just doing work in the parks. And one of the old directors just combined it, just called it park specialist, and only got one foreman now, or crew leader. So,
What would it cost to get certification, to have one of your guys become certified so that you get the licensure for protection or insurance?
I don't remember what the cost is, but it's a pretty lengthy tests you gotta take to get it.
Is anything like the South Dakota nurseryman's one, it's wickedly difficult.
No.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to get.
What do you, Steve, what's the cost? Like if I got 2 trees on my boulevard, they're pretty big, you gotta bring your equipment out. What do you think?
To take down or to trim?
To trim, yeah, to trim for,
We really haven't dove into it yet to see how we want to go about trying to calculate it, if it's just by the hour or what equipment we use. And
let's
by
say
the
you gotta
time.
bring in all, I mean,
Loader, bucket truck, dump trucks,
yeah.
stuff. I'd have to go and do some figuring on it, and, because we usually, for something like that, for equipment rates, we use the FEMA rate numbers on it. You know, they have it broke down, dump truck is X amount of dollars per hour, payloader this size is X amount of dollars
And
per
boom
hour.
truck, they reimburse for a boom plus the truck, so there's 2 separate rates on that, and it could be $250 an hour just for the boom truck, because it's got the boom and it's the chassis too. And then there's staff.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different variables to it.
Staff, I've got mixed feelings, because we're public servants and we should be working it and doing things for the public to start with, but if we get tied up doing one thing all the time,
Well, especially now, like, there's not time to be, there's not time to be taking care of trees for $100 when I mean,
It's honestly no different than mowing your boulevard. Right. These are trees in a public space, and we don't expect the park guys to go out and mow the boulevard. It's the same thing. Okay. You have a recommendation of what you want to do?
Not yet. That's why it's discussion with you guys.
and as I discussed with the Public Works Director regarding the nuisance thing, it might be the easiest to go that route, but I like to work with the public and think we can be cooperative as well and not just wash our hands of it and say, hey, you didn't deal with your problem, now you pay the bigger amount.
Can we just, I mean, wouldn't it make sense at least just to get to per tree rather than per property? I mean, that sounds like that's the biggest hang up here is that.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of do.
One property, you have to deal with all of them.
Yep, and that's kind of what we do for removals. Yeah, we have different levels for the size of the tree.
Right, and then we went with the DBH or diameter, breast height, what you would know, but
But if you had some per tree or per property, but, you know, per property, you could have a corner lot that's got 6 trees on it type of thing versus one person, you're trimming 1 tree.
I'm just thinking in my neighborhood, I have 3 boulevard trees in my yard, and nobody else in my whole block has boulevard trees. So if you're gonna charge me $100 per tree, I still think that was a good deal. I mean, to trim my trees. And so, as a owner, I mean, that's better than $100 per property. You could at least look to do something along that line per tree. Again, going before the nuisance, you know, before you go into a nuisance deal. I think, I mean, I look at the average age of the people that live on my street too. It's a good thing they don't have boulevard trees, because they would, you know, my one neighbor's 90 and still thinks he can get on his roof. So he would probably try to go out and trim his own tree. And my neighbor on the other side's 87. Again, I think they don't have the ability to trim their own tree, and I don't know that they really look at it. They don't know that there's a truck. So I think just the letters that you're talking about sending out, I think having conversations, that's a big start. But I do think that we do need to set some kind of a fee structure that's more than $100 per property. Because if you did get to that corner lot and there were 6 trees, and it's like my trees are big, you know, they could easily be hanging over the street. And I don't think that they are.
But you're
You can
not-
buy Steve and check them out, but.
you're not doing dead wood taking the dead branches out, you're doing just.
Nope, this is just be for clearance.
Still, I still think that's, you're looking at, you're sending people out there, pulling them away from other projects. You know, this time of year, if an RV goes through there and takes the AC unit off the top of their camper, for example, I'm sure they're gonna call in a complaint, and you're gonna have to go out and deal with that, I would assume. So what does that cost? I mean, it clearly needs to be more than $100 property.
Right, there's an odd one over here in Fiscal Lot, the north end. It's a tree where campers have bumped it against it in years past, but it sits on a private property, it's in an alley. So as far as us saying you have to take action on that, it really is a private tree, and we don't have a nuisance yet on trees. So there's need both directions, or
So in the idea of fee schedule, just throwing this out there, is you just said that your neighbors are over 80. So when you think about the fee idea, maybe consider, can you do a grant for some of the older, people who are on a fixed income that may not be able to afford that process? Just throwing it out there, there are going to be situations where somebody is not going to be able to afford it.
it'd be something like what we do with our Retree Mitchell program, to where we have X number of dollars where they can submit for reimbursements of up $100 each. And if we budgeted that as far as being able to work with people doing that, quite possibly.
And
But you-
it-
you'd have to set up a
it's that
whole
community service
bunch of
type thing.
rules
Hey,
for
we're
that.
trying to help. For the ones who can afford it, hey, here's this. But for the ones who can't, that, need our help community-wise, setting that presence, hey, we respect you as well, and we are going to help you. So I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, I love the letter idea, because then it doesn't catch people off guard. Because I know, like, for me, being new to Mitchell, it's complicated to get information. Unless you know people that give you, hey, this is where you're going to go for this information, or, you're going to do it in the newspaper. I don't read the newspaper.
Is this regarding all organizations or the city itself?
A lot of stuff with Mitchell. It's difficult to get communication unless you're like on Facebook. And I wasn't on Facebook until I came to South Dakota, because that wasn't really something that I looked at. But the idea of, presenting that communication, however, media, letter, newspaper, okay, fine. And then that other side note is maybe the financial side of it. When you think about the budget, the nuisance side of things, and then the demographics. So just throwing it out there, just to kind of maybe think about, and then the grant pool, maybe, however that works. Because here's the other thing, a renter versus somebody who owns property. You may send a letter out to the renter, hey, here's this from the address. They're going to be like, whatever.
Yeah, in them cases, I look up on the county map who actually owns the
Who owns the
property.
property?
And that, they get the letter, the actual owner, not the renter.
Gotcha.
So,
So just a couple things that just come to my mind as far as that goes.
I like the two ideas of upping the hourly rate, but also per tree, I guess. Some kind of combination between those.
yeah, and I don't want to have it too low that we're taking stuff away from private contractors too, trying to
Which,
Yeah.
do the work and stuff.
Absolutely, that's the thing, like, yeah. You're not creating a separate business here for you guys.
Yeah.
I'll note also, the community where I had been, they had 2 forestry guys, but tree removals were out a year as far as that list, the wait list, and trimming was out about 9 months. So it's a lot of work, and I can't even imagine what it's like now that they have Emerald Ash Borer.
I think, and maybe this would help some situation too. I think some people would maybe trim trees more if it was easier to dispose of the branches. I think some people see getting rid of the branches as the main issue. So maybe if that was, I don't know, I'm not saying like a year-round time, but maybe different times of the year, that was maybe an easy, and I know, at the grass stump there on 8th, when they do, when we have storms and stuff, they have branch drop times.
Right, and that's been at least a year, if not 2 years, when that happened the last time, I believe.
Yeah, and maybe one solution to try before, like, in the midst of that would be to have different times sporadically throughout the year to do branch drops there, so just to make it more convenient. And maybe people would take the time to trim more if they didn't have to go to take their branches all the way to the
You might
dump.
even have to do pickup, because if you have a truck, you're probably gonna haul them somewhere, whether it's out the city dump or whatever. but
Or take
I
'em
imagine
somewhere
the
else,
People
yeah.
that don't have pickups, that's where you really run into the problem. Just
Yeah,
like,
that-
what
we
do
get
they-
that complaint too.
Put it in their car.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And as far as the piling trees at the, like 8th Street, that's a whole other department that handles that, and they still have to, run the trucks, haul it to landfill after that too, so that's a budget thing for them too.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine what it costs to have all those branches picked up there and hauled out on after a storm when that's happened. But yeah, I'm just thinking that there would be more people that maybe would go out and trim these and have less issues with that if it was a little bit easier to dispose of them.
I think that also might help with your private property trees that are standing around town dead. If they had an easier way to get rid of them, that might be why they're still standing is, well, one, it's too close to their house and they can't cut it down, maybe. But for some of those, they're not real close and you could drop that tree fairly easily, but they don't have a way to dispose of it. That might be kind of like what they're saying is just an easier way to get rid of it. There is a cost, but, do you want it to look better or,
Right. And being one who had a brother-in-law help me drop an Austrian pine back in February, I had no way to haul that myself. I took his tractor to be able to load it and haul it out.
Any other discussion? Did you get any guidance from us at all?
They're paying for higher fees.
Yeah.
And non-property wide fees? Or I mean, you know what I mean? Per tree or whatever.
Maybe do your cost analysis. Because really, people are gonna wanna put out the numbers. I mean, if it's gonna be $100, okay.
A tree.
A tree, or property. But maybe come back with a cost analysis of if you were doing something extensive, like taking a tree completely down, and do an example from the city, pick a tree and go, if your tree looks similar, or if the situation is similar to this is what it's gonna cost, and this is the breakdown. This is why it's gonna cost us. I know, when you do work, it's hard to figure out, what am I paying for? I want a list of the itemized, what's the equipment? Tell me why it's gonna cost that much money. I don't know if I wanna say it justifies the means, but it gives people a reality. Hey, this is not free. And $100 when you're paying somebody $20 an hour, plus the insurance and everything else that kind of goes, they can appreciate, it's the big moment. And then do something simple. Maybe it is just a whole bunch of tree limbs and it's very simple, and like you said, it's like a 30-minute job. Very simple. You're gonna bring your dump truck and you're just gonna dump those leaves because they're gonna be right underneath that tree as you're chopping them down or whatever, I don't know. But that might help with a visualization. Because again, people will read it, like the numbers and, like our bank statements and stuff like that, but they don't really understand where's the breakdown. For some, I don't know about all, but that might help as well if you get a cost analysis. And then you're gonna know how much is it gonna cost your team to do it, get it out. And then talk to some of the other guys that are around that do the work, that normally do the work, and see where you won't undercut them, and play it fair, like that transparency. I think people, business owners appreciate that. And we're not trying to make money away from you or whatever. And just a couple other food for thought ideas.
Yeah, they think the higher the better, but at the same time, we don't want to sock it to the public.
Yeah. Like I said, not take work away from a private contractor
Right.
to do it, and, because we have staff, but yet still pretty short staffed, and it takes away from other stuff too.
All right, next meeting date. Or is there something to decide?
I wanted to talk a little bit about the
Okay,
pontoon
go for
rental
it.
thing. So the pontoon is in the water, ready to go, but the lift, the dock was modified with a different part in between. So there's now a 10-foot span in between, so the boat, 10 or 12.
It's about that, 10-foot wasn't big enough, so it's like 11 or 12-foot to be able to fit the boat lift in the area that it's in now.
So it's now in that U shape, and the two paddle boats are on the outside, pedal boats, whatever you want to call them, pedal or paddle, are on the north side. But the lift and the pontoon are in there, and it's ready to go. We're still playing with the Clover system. I went out and tested it today and charged the credit card for the rental fee and charged for the deposit. But I even printed off all the directions on how to do that. But when I went to go and do the refund, it wasn't at all like the directions. So we're still playing with that, and the three of us are going to tackle, Steve doesn't know this yet, but we're going to tackle it tomorrow, just so first-hand person and his staff person will be working with this, have a handle on it, open them out some directions to make it work. That's all I have in that. Sorry to interrupt your next board meeting.
Next meeting,
August 8th.
August 8th.
And I'll have election of officers on there, now that we have a full board in. So anybody who doesn't attend the meeting,
Railroad.
you'll be railroaded.
What positions are you guys having?
They do, we have a president, which was Chris Raderath, who is term limited. Andy Yerke was vice president. And then, Clayton was secretary treasurer. And the reason why we go 3 deep is it doesn't happen very often, but we have had where both the president, vice president's been gone. We've actually had where all 3 have been gone. So we go 3 deep. That way we've got somebody to run the meeting. And if all 3 of them are gone, then so.
Okay.
You look for a formal adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?